Greetings everyone, my name is Zetterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Mega Man 42. During the last part, I cleared the 4 remaining Roadmaster levels. However, there was something I did overlook back in Madman stage. To the right of over here, there's a secret, and in order to access it, you need to have access to the launch missile. Jump over here, clip to the wall. We have an extra Roadmaster. His name is Etc. Man. He was intended to be in the original game, but he was scrapped, so instead he was moved over to being an Easter egg. Essentially, it seems that his abilities are spawning in other enemies. Of course, it seems to be random what enemy he decides to spawn in, but at least there's a sound effect of when he's going to spawn in the next enemy. However, we can make those enemies fight for our side using stuff like the radiation ray. And it seems that you can summon any enemy from anywhere, actually. And those enemies can give you life energy if you kill them. Some are unfortunately indestructible, like for example those skeletons. So yeah, scrapped boss. You wouldn't know about it unless you paid attention and utilized the launch missile everywhere. I only learned about it from 2 Let's Plays. During my test runs I never saw it, and once I double checked there, that's how I learned about it. With that secret boss cleared, the only thing left to do in this game is clear the Wily Fortress levels, so let's do that right now. In fact, I may even be able to complete this game in this part, although that'll depend on how long the Wily Fortress will take, as well as how many times I'll die off screen. Here is the Wily Saucer, although the animation loop for the bottom portion is a bit off. Also, gosh, look at Dr. Wily's legs and feet over there. Add that to the list of oddities that this game has, the ever-growing set. So in this game, Dr. Wily's castle takes place in a pyramid, although it's missing the mini-pipe that most of the castles have. But considering all of the other negatives that this game has, the fortress map as well as the fortress design doesn't look too bad. It just looks meh. But that's a major improvement considering everything else that this game gets wrong. So we start out in this desert just outside the pyramid, similar to actually the introduction of Dr. Wily Stage 1 in Mega Man 1. Also showing off the insane cannon here, you can fire a volley of up to 5 shots on screen at a time, and I believe you have a max ammo capacity of 140, 28 times 5, estimating based off of the weapon energy degradation on the top left. It's best to use it in short to medium range though, otherwise it's just too random for your own sake. You'll have a hard time hitting most of the stuff, unfortunately. It's best to use this at close range or utilize it against the boss who's weakening against it. The Wily Fortress status in this game, just like the poor design as we saw before, well, it doesn't utilize any of the minuscule number of gimmicks that were present in the previous status. Not the bouncy floors from Sandman or Madman's levels, nor even the air gimmicks from Skyman's level. Also, this is a better introduction of the Grenadier Joes. You have more time to get used to their pattern, and you have less chance of getting sniped. Also, something I just realized just before starting this recording, if you can throw the Thunder Hammer behind the shielded enemy, it'll pierce right through the guard and destroy them. This will be super useful against the Sand Joes that we'll see later in this stage. Also, this is a better introduction of the Slumber Mets, so you can get close enough to them without having to jump and make a leap of faith like in Sandman's stage. Which is kind of sad that the Fortress stage has a better introduction of enemies than the actual stages themselves. But overall, the Wily Fortress stages outside of a few points here and there aren't that difficult. They're just badly designed and rather bland and forgettable. Okay, here are the sand geodes I was talking about. Using that, I can just pierce right through the guards. If you want to conserve your launch missile energy, which I highly recommend you do because you'll be forced to utilize it in the next Wily Fortress stage, or the Radiation Ray, or the Sleeping Sands, just use the Thunder Hammer. Also, here's a Sleeping Sprite for the Sanjos. Almost all the enemies have their own unique Sleeping Sprite, which is a nice touch and goes a lot further than what you expect from this type of game. Here's the ones for these fake spikes. I would like to correct a mistake I made back in Skyman's level. There is a way to distinguish between the fake spikes and the real spikes. The real spikes have a grayish tint, whereas the fake spikes have this bluish tint over here, if you pay close attention. I didn't realize that during my test runs, nor during my actual Let's Play, so my apologies. Also, those projectile shots only deal 1 to 2 points of damage. You want to be up at full Thunder Hammer energy as well as full life energy for an oncoming boss fight. So I will do some minor life energy grinding here, and hopefully I can get back up to full. Alright, I'm done with life energy grinding. The game saw fit to just refill me on weapon energy. It took over 40 skull jumper kills in order to get all the life energy back. Anyways, bring out the Thunder Hammer and let's face the boss of Wily Fortress 1. It's basically this game's iteration of the Yellow Devil. I do like how the creative fashion of how we have different sized chunks, but following this first sequence, it starts to go downhill for several reasons. And if you time it correctly, you can actually triple hit the boss, like I did there. Now the boss will start spawning in its little portions and move them from the bottom parts of the screen. But that isn't the worst part. Yes, the boss can summon in these minor chunks from random portions of the screen, or from non-existent portions. Add that to the list of programming bugs that this game has. And rinse and repeat. Thankfully it has the same weakness element affiliation as the original Yellow Devil had. It's just that one which is super hard to dodge for me. It just seems to come out of nowhere. There's another triple hit. One more round should do it. During my test plays, I usually died at least once against this boss fight. That's why I wanted to be back at full life energy. Okay, this time somehow I dodged it. Also, I got sniped over there, and because I killed the boss in mid-damage frames, I now finish it with me being stuck in damage pose. Add that to the growing pile of bugs that this game has. Anyways, on to Wily Fortress 2. Also nice touch with the VHS symbol at the bottom. I always thought they looked like the VHS portions in the original Wily Fortress levels. If you utilize the launch missile in any part of the previous stage, and you're missing some weapon energy there, make sure to refill it. There's a mandatory usage of the launch missile just coming up. And if you aren't near full, well, you'll be forced to farm off of the straitjacket enemies, and the RNG may not be in your favor. Here's what I'm talking about. Okay, decided to give me an extra life. That's only the second extra life I've seen in the game that enemy decided to randomly drop. Alright, this is your last warning. Make sure to have a full refill of launch missile. Remember how back in Skyman's stage I said that you can ride the launch missile? Well, there's a slight problem with it. This game's collision detection is rather finicky, so it may or may not work. This time it decided to work, but during my last playthrough or playtest, it took at least 5 attempts to get it working. Make sure to jump onto the ladder here. If you die, you'll be forced to farm back up all that weapon energy, because I think those capsules don't respawn. We aren't out of the clear yet. If you die here, we haven't hit a checkpoint yet, so you'll be forced to restart that segment. Also, more of these sand joes. Unfortunately, those guards can just block against the sleeping sands as well. They're not cooperating with the radiation ray, so Thunderhammer time. I want to conserve the launch missile just in case. You didn't see it over there, but the launch missile can be super finicky when it decides to work or not. And I got super lucky there that it worked in my favor, just like how I got the extra life. This is one of the locations where the color glob is actually a pretty decent weapon, if the jump button decided to work. And now we're forced to start back over here, which means now I have to farm weapon energy. Alright, I'm back over here. I actually had to do a game over because that was faster than having to farm weapon energy for the launch missile. Once again, that's bad checkpoint placement. There should have been one after that point because of how long it takes to farm. Also, this is one of the few locations where utilizing color glob is pretty useful, mainly due to its downward firing arc. Well, thank you. In that case, the zipping worked in my favor. Also, the sleeping sands could be more useful if this game had more vertical segments. That one is a bit too much of a tight jump, personally speaking. And remember, if you die over here, you're sent all the way back to the beginning of the stage. And they decide to throw it at the worst time. Well, at least they can multi-hit enemies, the sleeping sands that is. So if you time it correctly, you can hit foes like this, and then easily deal with them even though their shields are still up. Alright, that's the end of the level. I was expecting one more checkpoint, but I made a mistake. So, the boss of Wily Fortress 2 is basically a giant picket man. Whose weakness is its core, apparently. But all of his attacks do deal quite a bit of damage, and the main danger is getting hit by its picket, though. Okay, never mind, its weakness is its lower part of the body. If you want to do this faster and easier, just use the paper slash, which is its weakness. But I'll try doing this buster only one more time, and if I fail, then I'll use its weakness. The main problem in this boss fight is the fact that if it gets too close to you, it's kind of hard to dodge its attacks, especially the orb attack. Like this attack, it's really precise to dodge if you don't know the pattern. But this is doable buster only. In fact, it's a lot more doable in comparison to Yellow Devil Mach 42 or whatever. So that was Wily Fortress 2, a rather frustrating level, mainly due to force usage of the launch missile, and the fact that, well, if you died any time after that and just before that final corridor, you're forced to repeat that segment. And there were 2 spike corridors or segments with precise jumping that if you weren't careful, you'd be sent right back to the beginning, which is what happened to me, as you saw there. Anyways, here's Wily Fortress 3. Thank you for the large weapon refills here. Once again, a better usage of these enemies in comparison to Sandman's stage by far. Quite embarrassing actually, that the fortress levels get this better. At least the music is a bit better in comparison to the previous stage. That one felt a bit uninspired, or rather just not really energetic, felt lethargic and uninteresting. Oh no, this type. Using this I can make sure where the ground actually exists. I'm not sure though. Oh, thank goodness. This screen used to be a lot worse in version 1.1 and 1.2. You had to do a lot of E-jumps, aka snaking around the platforms, but here it was made a lot easier, thank goodness. I know Shinru complained about it a lot during his playthrough as being the worst part of the game. I'm infinitely thankful that Servadec fixed this. Also a bit of enemy spam there. I want to make sure not to get knocked into the pit, hence why I'm using stuff like the paper slash. And there's a sleeping animation for those pseudo-caterpillars, I guess. Funny enough, you can actually apply both of the effects of the radiation ray in Sleeping Sands. Although it'll mean that the enemies can't move at all, so it loses the effectiveness. And there we are in the third fortress boss, a rather short level. This boss has all of the attacks of the 8 Roadmasters, and my suggestion is to stay to the left in order to survive. It's just super random, and there's no indication of what attack it'll do next. Like here it's designed to utilize stuff like the Sleeping Sands repeatedly as well as the Thunderbolt attack. And now the Insane Cannon. It seems to have a mixture of the AI of all the 8 Roadmasters, and now is the Homing Laser. And the Paper Slash. Okay then, that worked a lot better than what I expected. And Mega Man's flashing between his hit state and his hurt state. During my test runs I died 2 times over there. Essentially, the boss is super random and you can't be sure what he'll do next. Also, as you may have noticed, the Wily stages following the first and second one are a lot shorter. I'd say the first and second are about the same length, maybe the first is a bit longer, but third, fourth, and fifth are really short. In fact, the fourth one is the Roadmaster rematch stage, and it doesn't have a fortress boss at the end. Also, as an amazing touch, considering all the other things that this game fails at, I'm shocked to see that there is a Yashiki placed over here, which, if you recall correctly from Mega Man 1, restores all of your life and weapon energy that is missing. In most Mega Man fan games, there isn't usually a Yashiki before the Roadmaster rematch room, but here there is. So here we are with the Roadmaster rematch room. Time to utilize all their weaknesses, if I recall correctly what they are. First off is Ombudsman, whose weakness is the color glob. I guess the paint ruins his paperwork. And of course he can walk right into the globs of paint, making it a bit easier. Most of the Roadmaster weaknesses do make sense, at least most of them, and they fit the pattern or work against the boss patterns overall. Next up is Missile Man. Okay, it's a Thunder Hammer. I guess the electricity shorts him or something. And if you can multi-hit him properly, he falls rather quickly. All the bosses in this game fall rather quickly to all their weaknesses. Zombie Man's weakness is the paper slash. I guess the paper just cuts through its weak flesh. And he walks so slowly that you can just stand in place and deal with him that way. Sadly, I didn't get that life pickup, but I didn't really need it. Next up is Madman. It's the sleeping sands. If I can hit it properly. I guess that puts him to sleep and ends the madness. The problem is, of course, his random movement patterns. Yeah, finding Madman with his weakness makes the fight a bit harder, unfortunately. Mainly due to his insane movement patterns. Anyways, Sandman's weakness, I believe, is the Insane Ray, or Radiation Ray. I'm not sure why, though. I'm not sure what his pattern was there. He's supposed to drop the Sleeping Sands, but he decided not to. Brainman's weakness is the Insane Cannon. I guess the Insane Cannon messes up his wisdom or something. And considering how much he walks around the place, the random firing spread makes this a bit easier too. Also, the boss projectiles do not despawn, even if you kill them. Skyman's weakness is the homing laser. I'm not sure why, but at least it works with his pattern pretty well, because of how he moves around and how usually he's hard to hit off screen. Now I can hit me even if I'm below. And last but not least is Artman, who by process of elimination is weak against the launch missile. This is the most odd out of the bunch. He only moves left and right, but I'm not sure why the launch missile works wonders against him. I mean, look at all the damage he takes from it. He just gets tree-shotted by it. And that was the end of Wily Fortress 4. Yeah, that's just it. Rather short stage, just the hatch room. The only thing left is Wily Fortress 5. There are no secret levels after this. My apologies for the jump cut over there. I decided to do a game over so I could be back at full weapon energy for everything. As farming for it takes a lot more time, I basically jumped down that dead pit several times. Now, the way this final stage works is similar to the final stage of Mega Man 2. But at least we do not have lava droplets. Instead, we have these beetles walking around, or bouncing around. They may be a bit hard to see on the video, unfortunately, because they kind of blend in with the background. They infinitely respawn, and you can use them to restock on weapon energy. But overall, I'd say it's just faster to just take a game over. There are no Yashikis in this stage, unlike the previous one, and this would be a perfect place to put one. There is something to the right that is more guaranteed. I'm gonna be back at full health because I took a minor hit there. But of course, the RNG for these beetles means that basically they're the same as regular enemies, so there's no greater chance of getting some life refills. I'll just go to the right. Yes, you only get one lone large weapon refill. There should have been at least 3 or 4 of them considering this game, or a Yashiki. Also, those images in the background, they won't play any role in the final boss encounter or the ending. Anyways, let's do it. Let's finish this game. So the final boss of this game is the Y Machine 42, which starts out as a war blimp in the first phase, dropping bombs first from the left, then the middle, then the right, all the while that turret's trying to aim at you. And you can actually hit the boss by using the paper slash. The boss's actual weakness is the sleeping sands. And if you aim it correctly, you can actually destroy the boss in one cycle. And immediately teleports down over here. For the second phase with this tank, its weakness is the radiation ray. The top portion specifically. All of this is dual buster only, but it's a bit annoying, especially the third phase, which is of course the requisite capsule. Its weakness is the color glob, which means that this phase can be a bit more difficult if you're not careful. Especially if it goes out of range, like here. And unfortunately it can be super random when it decides to come. Or where it decides to teleport in. At least it actually telegraphs what attack it's going to do. Like here, it summons this shockwave. This one, it summons that orb. This one, it summons all the 4 ones that split into your last position. I wish this boss's weakness was not this. I wish it was a longer range weapon like the Thunder Hammer. That would be super helpful. Nothing more to say other than the fact that where it teleports and what attack it does seems to be random. Just like all the other fortress bosses, of course. There we go, we've completed this game, and now time for the out-of-place ending. Dr. Wily begs as usual, and you'll see soon enough why it's out of place and how, considering there was no plot in the game itself, the plot was actually in the README file. Basically, it's a reenactment of the Mega Man 7 ending, specifically the American version. But this kind of comes out of place considering that we had more plot build-up in Mega Man 7. And there's Roll, of course. Wily's trying to escape here. Mega Man grabs onto Wily, and they all fall down. Wily gets crushed by that block, and Roll pulls Mega Man out of there. And there, Mega Man and Roll watch in the sunset or the nighttime as Dr. Wily's latest castle collapses. Of course, considering Mega Man 3, Dr. Wily probably survived the crushing block and faked his death. That's it. That was Mega Man 42. Time for the Roadmaster lineup. Starting from DWN 420, of course, because assuming that we had at least 41 Mega Man games before this one. Well, I already griped about this game a lot, and to summarize, this game has overall bad game design, bad graphics, bad music, and bad stages and bad gimmicks, or underutilization of gimmicks. I mean seriously, only a few stages had gimmicks. The bouncy gimmick from Madman and Sandman stages, the air gimmicks from Skyman stage. I don't remember any other ones. The only stages that I really found to be nice in terms of graphical aesthetics, or rather, at least somewhat passable, would be Sandman stage, or as I like to call it, Sleepman stage. Everything else just feels blah, especially in the worst sides if you go to stuff like Missile Man. Really, the only saving grace about this game are the weapon selection. The weapon selection of this game is pretty good, filling a diverse set of weapon needs, although some of the weapons are a bit glitchy, what with stuff like the launch missile, and some stuff like the color glob are unfortunately underutilized, outside of some special cases like Wily Fortress 2, weakness affiliations, or some mobile enemies. And the other sort of saving grace were the bosses. I liked the ideas and most of the attacks that the bosses had, but unfortunately, all of the bosses, or at least the majority of them, had very random patterns. Some bosses suffer from this more than others. So overall, I strongly recommend that you don't play this game. Play another Mega Man fan game instead. Mega Man Unlimited, Rock Force, Super Fighting Robot, Queen's Revenge, Magmal 1 or Magmal 2, Day in the Limelight, Roko-chan, and many others that I'm missing. Probably almost all of the other Mega Man fan games I've LP'd on this channel. Nonetheless, that's the end of this April Fool's LP. I hope you all enjoyed my gripe through of this game effectively. I've complained so much of it, and I apologize if I ranted a bit too much to Servadec. So take this as what not to do in a Mega Man fan game for anyone watching. I'm planning on covering either Ojo's or Skullman Kills next. Well then, please rate, comment, and or subscribe if you enjoy this LP series. They all really help out the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.